Welcome back to the Dynasty Rewind YouTube channel. My name is Bob Van, and today we're back for another mock draft. We're back on Underdog Fantasy, rocking out another best ball draft. Getting prepped for the 2021 fantasy football season, getting you guys ready with another draft. Now, this isn't a sleeper mock. This isn't, the standard mock draft. This is obviously a little different. We're drafting a team of 18 players that'll essentially be put into an optimized lineup every week. So there's no roster management during the season. The reason I like using this format to get a kind of a gauge of where I can get players in a regular draft is people are putting their money down on these drafts. The other nice thing about these drafts is they fill up right away. There's no hassle of trying to fill a mock on Sleeper, trying to fill a mock with friends or anything like that. This is just boom, you're in, you're bored for a half hour plus, and you're just looking to kill some time. This is a great way to do it. And then if you have watched one of my best ball videos before, I am running a bit of a different format. Today I'm running on OBS as opposed to StreamYard. If you could let me know down in the comments below if you prefer this method. Personally, I think it just makes the screen look a little bit better for you guys, a little bigger. So I think you guys are going to like this a little more than the standard method of using StreamYard. And if you haven't watched one of my other best ball videos on Underdog Fantasy, I really do hope that you enjoy this one enough to go back and check out those other ones. I will link them at the end of the video for you. All right, so we got the fourth pick in the draft. Should be able to land one of the top running backs in the league, which is awesome. I love starting off with a good running back. Our second pick, we'll have a little bit more of some options. With our second pick, we'll be able to have a few more options. We can go wide out. We can go running back. Definitely not diving into quarterback. Maybe tight end if Waller's there. I doubt it. I'll probably stick to my two running backs like I normally do. So we get the 4 slot, which is fine by me. We're going to walk away with one of the top running backs in the league. I'm probably going to roll with Zeke Elliott if he's there. I like Kamara. I like Henry if he's there. I doubt he will be. We'll see what happens. So, hey, I'm going to smash Derrick Henry here. I do like Zeke, and I think he's bound for a bounce back season. But I have a tough time not drafting Derrick Henry. I was somebody who just kept being on the bandwagon of this guy is going to regress. He's going to fall off. He's not going to be able to maintain the level of play he's been able to. And I've been sorely mistaken for quite some time now. And he's somebody for me that I'm just riding until the wheels fall off with him. So I have no issues taking him at the 1-4. Like I said, if it was between Kamara and Elliott, I might have gone Ezekiel Elliott. With the news today that Michael Thomas is looking to be out for the first few weeks of the season, that would put Kamara a little higher up my board solely for the fact of when Michael Thomas was out last year, Alvin Kamara got a ton of receptions out of the backfield. So that's something to think about. Probably would have been working in that offense as a receiver more. Probably would have been their number one wide receiver, in all honesty. And this is something we need to talk about. In a 10-team league, you can get some serious value at the 10-1, at the 1-10, 2-1 turn with Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler. For example, you could have walked away with Nick Chubb, maybe Barkley now. You can walk away with two darn near elite running backs at that spot. And man, I'm a little envious to say the least. I'm hoping that if I could have Gibson make it back, if I could have Najee make it back, wouldn't hate that in the least. But we will see what makes it back to me in a few picks. And then we got a quicker turn this time around, so we'll see what happens. We'll probably go. I'm gonna look to go running back and then wide receiver on the next pick. So Antonio Gibson goes off the board right before me, and I am a-okay with that. I will take Najee Harris. There is, that whole rookie running back narrative that a lot of the time, sometimes they don't pan out right away. Or rookies need time to pan out. Najee Harris just doesn't feel like that type of player to me. The Steelers were one of the lowest ranked teams in rush efficiency last year. They just could not get it done on the ground between an injured James Conner, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, who was also injured most of the season. I was tempted with Darren Waller there. I'm not as huge of a fan of the value there with him, solely speaking because of the fact that I feel like I can get good tight ends later. Guys like Robert Tonyan, I'm targeting. Guys like Logan Thomas, I'm targeting. Those are just two off the top of my head. There's a lot more back there. We'll hopefully get into them as the show rolls on. So after Waller, we see Metcalf, we see Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we see Aaron Jones. I'm being pushed very aggressively in the direction of taking a wide receiver. And I'm not opposed to that. There's a lot of guys I like here. I'm going to probably roll with Justin Jefferson. Yep, I'm going to roll with Justin Jefferson. And the reason being, I would have taken A.J. Brown probably if he was there. The only reason I wouldn't want to take him is having Derrick Henry. I don't really want two guys that are on the same team on a best ball team. On an actual fantasy team where you're setting different lineups, it's a little different, I guess you could say. But I just don't want any chance of them kind of cannibalizing each other with touchdowns, stuff like that. I think they can both get theirs, and it's not too big of a deal. Just something I kind of like to avoid in best ball formats, at least, is I don't like to draft too much of the same team. I don't like to draft too much of the same bye week, which I already broke that rule by drafting Justin Jefferson, who has the same bye week as Najee Harris. Oh well, different positions. I let that rule flex out a little bit. When I get to the same position, not as much of a fan of the move. So we are 11 picks away, a long ways away from our next pick, and that's okay. So we're gonna have a lot of players come off the board here. George Kittle at the 3.5 is a solid pick. You know, if it weren't for injuries, which hey, you have to account for them. Honestly, he's probably a top second round pick more years than not. I think maybe the uncertainty at quarterback has people scared off of him a little bit. But at 3.5, George Kittle, I don't have any issues with that. I just like to attack wide receivers. I've been noticing a lot in best ball drafts, especially that wide receivers are just gone by the time you get to the eighth, ninth round. There's not a lot of targets I like, and I'm all for taking dart throws, but I don't want to dive into any one position too much where I have to rely on the dart throws as opposed to just like, hey, if this guy pops off, he's an extra player on my team. I don't want to need the player to pop off for my team to have a stable wide receiver room or running back room, whatever the case is. I will link a video that things went very haywire in the wide receiver room that I did, I believe, last week. I'll link that up above. So as you can see, like I mentioned, the wide receivers are just starting to now, when they start going in these drafts, they just go. I mean, you have probably arguably most of the top 10 gone already as we get into the end of the third round. Um, Quarterback goes off the board. That's fine. I'm not a huge fan of drafting quarterbacks early. I am a fan of drafting quarterbacks at value. However, I just don't think there's a lot of value for quarterbacks with the ADPs now. I think there's reaches at quarterbacks. I think quarterbacks are mostly like at their value. Like you're not really going to get more out of them than you're paying for. Like Mahomes as a 310 in a best ball league that's single quarterback. Like what are you hoping to get? Like yeah, you're hoping to get QB1, but what are you really taking away from that at the end of the day when you could have grabbed, what's the replacement value of, not that there's, a Robert Woods over a quarterback you're going to get later compared to that wide receiver you have to grab later. That's something to kind of think about. So if I somehow manage to get my hands on DeAndre Swift here, I might just punt running back the rest of the draft. It's not going to happen because Lions fan is going to take him. He's not. Unbelievably, well, one, Lions fan didn't take DeAndre Swift. And DeAndre Swift is sitting, if DeAndre Swift is sitting there at the 4-7 in any league, I know it's a 10-team league, so it's a little skewed, but he'd still be at the 4-2 or 4. He'd be right at the top of the fourth round still. And like, I would have normally gone wide receiver there, and I definitely will with my next pick with what we got going on. But a start like that, where you only have to start 2 running backs per week, really tempts me to just basically say until like I get to the Nyheim Hines of the world, the J.D. McKissicks of the world, to just punt running back and just hammer wide receiver and value quarterbacks. Um, I just can't get over how much value DeAndre Swift is. They're going to pound the rock more than people think. That O-line is more retooled and arguably one of the best offensive lines in that division right now. I think the Packers have a little more of a competition there on if they have the best one or not. I'm going to hope to smash Cooper Kupp here if he makes it. I don't think he will, but that's what I'm looking at. Number one, I'll put him in my queue so that he definitely doesn't make it to me. Yep, that didn't take long. So now I'd be tempted with Adam Thielen if I didn't already have his teammate Justin Jefferson. That would break all of the rules. I'm going to take Chris Godwin if he's there. Absolutely. I'm going to take Chris Godwin. Man, this draft is in my opinion, I'm pretty stoked about this draft right now. Chris Godwin was one of my favorite players to bounce back in 2021. Was just riddled with injuries last year. Didn't get to play the full season. And the games he did play in, a lot of he either left early or just wasn't playing his full self, wasn't playing at full capacity. I touched on him a lot in a bounce back players video we did last week. He finished out as the PPR wide receiver 12 on points per game basis last year. The year before, he was the wide receiver 3 or 5 overall. I can't, I don't want to fade this guy in the 5th round now as my wide receiver 2, arguably most teams wide receiver 1. So I'm happy with that. And like I said, my running back room is looking good. My wide receiver room is looking pretty darn good. So I'm happy with my team so far. Again, I broke my rules of attacking the same bye week. I'll have to make sure I avoid those as much as I can going forward. Unfortunately, it's just sometimes it doesn't line up that way, and that's just unfortunate. But you don't want to be in a best ball league where basically total points wins. You're not facing anybody or anything like that. You want to make sure that you have the most points going at the board every week. So if that means kind of trickling out your bye weeks as opposed to like in a normal league setting, some people like to just put all their bye weeks in one week and it works. But in this, if you were to just essentially miss a week in best ball, if you know, when you could be scoring 150 points and you just have like 20 points trickle in because you happen to have a couple players playing, that's not going to bode well for the rest of the season, in my opinion. I just don't think you're going to make that up later. Sure, you're going to have a lot of players going at the board every other week of the year to try to make that up. But I mean, basically taking a week off in best ball is a killer for a lot of teams. Javonte Williams is an awesome value at 6'2" as well. I would expect him to creep up the board more and more as we get to the draft. In your home leagues, he's going to be one of the biggest values in my opinion because those rookies just slide unless they're a big name and they're like guaranteed to start right away, like a Najee. You know, he's going to be a value. He's going to be a guy that probably trickles into in a 10-team league. Wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him in the 8th round just kicking around. And in my opinion, he's going to start more than likely day one, if not day one, very quickly into the season. We're coming back around, and I'm looking at wide receivers. And I don't love a lot of the options here. I don't hate them either. Definitely don't hate them. But I mean, this is an awesome spot to be because running back, there's not really any. See, that was not a reach, but maybe could have got him on the next pick. The way I'm looking at it is now I've placed my team in where I want wide receivers, and there's wide receivers aplenty sitting here. Now, what do I want to do with those wide receivers? That's another question. Deontay Johnson's out of the question. Brandon Ayuk is probably the reason or somebody I want to target. Johnson's out of the question just because of the same bye week. I like T. Higgins, but he went already. So I'm gonna roll with Brandon Ayuk. I couldn't fault anyone. See, here's my thing here is I don't have a tight end, and this guy doesn't have a tight end. Everybody else has a tight end on the way back to me. So I'm assuming TJ Hockenson or Mark Andrews will fall. I'm going to grab one of them more than likely with my next pick. Not a huge fan of Gaskin. And then I'll probably look to attack running back and wide receiver on the next couple of picks as well. So we'll see what happens. I want TJ Hockenson, but I might end up with Mark Andrews. We'll see what happens. Ooh, Darrell Henderson. That's a good pick. I'll probably look to target the other Los Angeles Rams running backs late. Darrell Henderson, I wasn't even thinking about him at this point yet, to be honest with you. And that's okay, honestly. The fact of the matter is he's going to get first crack. There is rumors already swirling about that there's a chance that he doesn't play next or doesn't start the season. There's some issues with some ailments or something that came out a while ago that everybody seemed to miss because everybody's assuming Cam Akers is going to be the guy. But so Henderson there is a pretty awesome grab. Maybe a little early, but he had to there. And so this is where I'm going to boast about the slider bar for the Underdog Fantasy app. I was able to project that a tight end was going to slide to me between Hockenson and Mark Andrews. Instead of taking him there, I was able to pick the wide receiver I wanted, let the tight ends trickle through, assuming that nobody who had picked a tight end earlier was going to focus on one now. So I'm going to take Mark Andrews here, run it to the bank, and the other team that didn't have a tight end now has a tight end. So most teams right now have a tight end, except for this string of folk here who are now in a sad position because that is the top tier of tight ends done pretty much. So like I said, use these bits of information here. The fact that, you know, you can see what your league mates are going to be looking for in your next picks. And that way you can kind of project what will go to your next pick, especially when you're close to being on a turn or you're, just outside of a turn. It's a good way to kind of, like I said just there, I was like, oh man, one of these, they're not gonna, nobody's gonna take a second tight end here, because usually when you take a tight end that early, one, you don't want to double down on tight end. Usually you pick one and you're good, and then you're just going to focus on all the other positions. Two, you've pigeonholed yourself into tight end, and you need to make up for that, so you just can't grab tight end again. I'm still going to grab Robert Tonyan later, probably. I can usually get him in the anywhere from the 10th to 12th round. That's going to be my target later for a tight end. And then I'm going to call the tight end room done. I'm pretty happy with those two. I am honestly pumped with how this draft has gone so far. I know it's a 10 team. I shouldn't get too excited. But man, I'm having a grand old time here. So we're up again, and I'm not wild about the wide receivers here. And I would pick Chenault, but I already have a bye week 7. So I'm looking at Tyler Boyd, but the only issue with that is I got Damian Harris. You know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to go Tyler Boyd. Take the safer pick. Don't know how it's going to pan out in that offense with 3 stud wide receivers just hanging out. I'm happy with Tyler Boyd there. Gives another one of my wide receiver room. By the end of the day, that wide receiver room is going to be looking damn good. Next picks, Chase won't. I doubt Chase Edmonds will make it back to me. He's not a bad grab. I wouldn't mind Damian Harris. Definitely wouldn't mind some Michael Carter. James Robinson's even a good pick, aside from the week 7 bye. I think, I don't want to say it because I don't want to get crucified by you guys, but I think running back is starting to get a little deeper than people think. I know people love hitting them early, but especially in best ball at least, where, running backs aren't as much of a premium. I think people put a little more emphasis on wide receiver in best ball because you have to start more positions each week. I think wide receivers are starting to get a little less depth, and running backs are starting to get a little more favorable later in the draft. All right, so I mentioned that I was on the fence with Damian Harris at my previous pick. I'm going to roll with him here. I think I like him more than Chase Edmonds. I just think Damian Harris is a little more durable. I think Edmonds probably has a little more upside, which is fine. I think that offense is going to be a little more explosive, but I think New England showed their cards a little bit last year that they want to transform that offense back into a ground and pound scheme like they were last year when Cam Newton was at the helm, and make it more of a system that the quarterback can thrive off of, as opposed to a system that the quarterback needs to rely on, if that makes sense. So Damian Harris, I don't hate that there. Again, I am so tempted to just, you know what, this running back room is done. It's studly. It's great. I love it. Probably going to add one later. That's okay. But again, I mean, we got a ton of value coming down the pipeline. Noah Fant is a huge, at this rate, with some of the tight ends that have gone before him, man, I just, like Tyler Higbee, for example, is going ahead of Noah Fant. And I think the reason people can't get behind Noah Fant is a lot of it comes down to the quarterback play that he's working with. It comes down to the guys had trouble staying healthy. Take your pick, whatever it is. I'm going to be looking to, with my next pick possibly, or maybe the next couple, looking to stack up one of these guys with their quarterback. Either give me Tom Brady. I don't know if Trey Lance is still kicking around. I don't know if I really want to bank on that. Another one, Joe Burrow, I think is still maybe kicking around. Nope, he just got taken. Lions fan, not taking any Lions players, which is kind of interesting. He passed on DeAndre Swift earlier, so that's interesting to me. We're still quite a few picks away. It's surprising to see Chenault drop this far. Seems like everybody's kind of dipping back into running back, which is interesting. I mean, that's a deep dive down the board, looking for Ronald Jones later in the draft. Mecole Hardman, another guy who I think was kind of down the board. So we might see some really nice values start sliding here, where people are just kind of starting to look past that, 7 or 8 spots you can see there, and scroll down and see what's available. So Laviska Shenault finally comes off the board. I am going to finish off my tight end room. I have the quick turn, and you know what? Yeah, I'm going to risk it. He might go quarterback and snag Tom Brady. I'm all right with it. I'm just not in love with any of these wideouts. I would take Brandon Cooks. Don't really want to stack him with Tyler Boyd that week. Probably making a mistake there. See what happens. I'm going to snag Noah Fant, call my tight end room done. I usually try to snag Robert Tonyan later. Almost makes me wish I would have passed on Mark Andrews earlier and gotten Noah Fant and Robert Tonyan later. So we'll see what happens. I do think I'm probably safe with Tom Brady making it down my way, stacking with Chris Godwin. That'll be pretty neat. Pretty safe quarterback there to play with. And man, we are rolling in this draft. I'm liking it a lot. I know it's a 10-team league. Don't sue me. That's okay. See, a lot of people are going to go for the rushing upside that Tannehill offers, and that's fine. Brandon Cooks goes off the board. I'm happy to see that. He's a good player. Should be going earlier than he is, honestly, the way he's played every year under a different system, essentially, and a new quarterback. It's under to be marveled in this league, honestly. So I think take him for what it's worth. Take him in the 10th round, going at about the 9th, 10th, or the 8th or 9th, excuse me. Aaron Rodgers is a good pick. I think he's definitely coming back. I'm not worried about that at all as a Packers fan. Personally, I do think he's done after this year in Green Bay. I think they either cut him or they find a way to move him. So it is what it is. We'll see what happens. All we can do is wait, unfortunately. Hopefully some news comes out next week when training camps kick up that he's back and around, ready to go, ready to rock. So we'll see what happens.
All right, so obviously what I said there was I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers at all. However, I recorded that video before this news broke on Friday afternoon that Aaron Rodgers is believed to retire, or multiple sportsbook at least believe that. So take that with a grain of salt. If that is the case, I'm obviously not as high on Aaron Rodgers, and I am worried, and that sucks. I do have a lot of basketball shares of him. I have several dynasty shares of him. So unfortunate, but that is something to monitor. I would expect his stock on best ball to drop and Jordan Love's stocks to rise just because he's a quarterback. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, not quite as cavalier as I was about 2 minutes ago on Aaron Rodgers, but just want to get in here, throw that in there, and have that for you guys.
So Tom Brady does go. I had that feeling that was going to happen naturally. That is okay. Um, Now I'm kind of wishing that I would have gone with Brandon Cooks there anyway, because I'm kind of getting forced into matching up bye weeks anyway at this point. So I'm gonna go with a safer pick. No, I'm gonna go with a swing for the fence pick here and grab Darnell Mooney. I don't think I have a single share of him. I just saw so many plays last year. Being a Packers fan, I do end up watching a few Bears games a year, unfortunately. Just kidding. I actually really like the Bears team. Um, I just saw so many throws last year where balls were just over his head, short, off to the side, take your pick, where just this guy is wide open, deep, like deep shots, wide open all day, and just Nick Foles couldn't hit him, Trubisky couldn't hit him. Now I get a guy that can hit him in Justin Fields, and even I think Andy Dalton has a decent ball. I think he's a decent veteran that can play on this team and still play in this league. I'm kind of surprised to see Matthew Stafford kicking around. He goes, he usually goes before Tom Brady even, and he usually goes before Tom Brady and Tannehill, and the running backs that are going now. I mean, in my opinion, you're drafting handcuffs with Melvin Gordon and James Conner. Could be wrong there. Never know what the league's doing. I tell you what, though, if Matthew Stafford's kicking around mine, nope. There he goes. I just gotta stop talking about people I want. That's what's happening here. So I could grab Trey Lance. That's a huge upside pick. I might go double tap quarterback here. I wouldn't love it, but like I said, I can neglect my running back room if I really want to. That's an awesome running back room to have. I'm pretty much just going to rely on Derrick Henry and Najee most weeks. And the other weeks, hopefully DeAndre Swift can fill in the flex. Harris can fill in on bye weeks. I got a pretty good setup there, I think. And then my wide receiver core is solid as well. Doubled up bye weeks. Like I said, wish I kind of would have gone with Brandon Cooks. A little less upside and a little more safety at the position. Now people are starting to grab their second quarterbacks, which is going to put me in, I wouldn't say a pickle, but it is going to put me in a bit of a let's draft quarterbacks mood. I want to be left with some guys that have some real supreme upside. If I get Lawrence and Fields here, I would like that quite a bit. I doubt I will. Otherwise, I'll be looking at Wentz a little later, maybe with my next pick, just because I don't want to sit here waiting and watch all these quarterbacks go off the board again on me. That would be kind of upsetting, but we'll see what happens. All right, so we are going to end up snagging Trevor Lawrence, which I don't love, but if you want to talk about a quarterback who, and I think this is what's kind of happening with Jalen Hurts and why he's going so early, is people are really accrediting him with a lot of rushing ability, which is fine, especially in this format where passing touchdowns are only 4 points, so on and so forth. That rushing will be key, especially when a rushing touchdown is still 6 points. So that'll all be key, and I think Trevor Lawrence is somebody who can do that. But the fact that he's going all the way in the 12th round when, like I said, Jalen Hurts is ahead of him, when Lawrence is a pure passer and, somebody who's been elite at the college level, I think Lawrence is going a little later than he should be. And I'm okay with that. I get to reap the benefits of that here. I'm still going to draft probably two more quarterbacks to go with him just to make sure of that being a safer pick. Unless I can get like Wentz. If I can get Wentz and Fields, that'd be my ultimate shopping list. But that's gonna be tough. I think my next pick is probably gonna be T.Y. Hilton, if I'm being honest. Or I could match up Marvin Jones with his quarterback. That's something I could do. I mean, look at it. Last year he had a hell of a year, man. Almost 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. Honestly, I might just go ahead and do that. Get the stackaroo going with that, and hope that I can grab Ty and Wentz with my next set of picks. I'm not gonna count on it, but that's gonna be where my head's at. Wow, I'm not even gonna be able to grab Ty. He goes quite a bit earlier than his ADP would suggest. But you look at this, like 7 wide receivers. That's nuts, and we're only in the 13th round. We still got 6 more picks to make, including this one. So, I mean, we're seeing quite a wide receiver run. I hope I can grab Marvin Jones. I don't have enough of him, honestly. Man, I'm really over getting sniped. Man, that's not cool. So in that case, I'm going to grab, man, he's way down the board. I'm going to grab Justin Fields just because that's who I want to grab over Wentz, even though I think he should go well before him. But I'll take Justin Fields. Honestly, probably my favorite rookie quarterback. Obviously, not my highest ranked quarterback. I just think Justin Fields really got crapped on in the draft process to beat down his draft stock. I think he really got the short end of the stick in all of that. A lot of people said he, can't read the field. He's a one-read quarterback. That whole Ohio State quarterback mentality, it's kind of just false in my opinion, where like we say that like there's a college out there that is just pumping out amazing NFL quarterbacks. And in reality, when you look at colleges, that's just not the case. There isn't any Harvard school of cranking out quarterbacks in the NFL at the college level. And so to say that one school is just bad at pumping out quarterbacks, you look at all the rest and it's like, okay, well, they didn't pump out any. At least Ohio State has had a couple make the NFL, so on and so forth. They're not, obviously you're talking Dwayne Haskins and, Field now is another one that, they're looking at. But who knows? We'll see. I'm higher on Field than most. Another guy with rushing upside does give me a stack with Darnell Mooney, which is cool. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what's there with our next pick. Like I said, unfortunate that we couldn't grab either Ty or Marvin Jones, my favorite quote unquote old man stack of the year at the wide receiver positions. Those are two guys I usually fade, older wide receivers, and they're just always kicking around when I need somebody. And I'm like, you know what? I'm draft that guy. So I can pretty much go shotgun approach at wide receiver. And hopefully, like I said, if I can grab even Kirk Cousins, stack him with Justin Jefferson, I'd feel pretty good about that. If I could grab, like I said, Wentz, that'd be cool. But I don't really have anybody to stack him with unless I draft Paris Campbell if he's still around, which I don't want to. Or I could draft, hey, I could stack him with Naheem Hines. That might be the play there, folks. We'll see what happens. I got a handful of picks left in this draft, so we'll see what happens when we get there. I'm going to get on my Robert Tonyan soapbox here for a minute. Robert Tonyan was the tight end 4 last year in standard scoring, and he's going probably in the 14th round. Not to me, but to somebody likely in the 14th round. And I just don't get it. I don't get how Adam Troutman went 3 rounds ahead of him when Adam Troutman has done nothing in the NFL. But when you're drafting this late in drafts, Robert Tonyan has already done what you need him to do, or what you were hoping to get out of him at this level, at this draft pick. You're hoping that he blows up. You're hoping that he scores a touchdown. He didn't get a ton of yardage last year. That's fine. I'm fine with expecting touchdown regression, but even at this rate, the draft value you're getting is just insane to me. But hey man, y'all do y'all. I'ma do me. I'm gonna grab Naheem Hines. Heck it. And I'll look to grab Wentz on my next pick. regardless that it's apparently the biggest reach of all time. That's just unreal where he's going. And then the rest of the picks will be wide receivers. I'm not worried at all about my running back room or my quarterback room if I can get both of those. Tight end room is fine. I could maybe get Tunyon if he's around. Not going to worry about him though. I'm going to go Hines. Like I said, running back room is done. Not worried about that at all. Give me a little stack attack with Carson Wentz. And people are hating on Wentz, man. I have a tough time with that as well. We talked about him in our bounce back video as well. Basically, that everything that Philly failed to give him as a front office, as an organization, Indy has in spades. He didn't have a defense. Now they have one of the top 5 defenses in the league. They didn't have an offensive line. Granted, they were hurt a lot of the time. They were a decent offensive line the years prior, but they'd fallen apart, weren't able to pick up the pieces again. Then he goes to Indy, top 5 offensive line. Awesome. The wide receivers aren't that much of an upgrade, so you can't just, say, oh, hey, now he has way better wide receivers. I will say he is, when you factor in the tight ends, when you factor in the wide receivers all together, maybe isn't that much better, but he's got Ty, reliable weapon. They didn't have a single reliable weapon last year. And then you just look at that team as a whole, upgrades all around essentially. The running back room is an upgrade, even though Miles Sanders is pretty dang good. It's still an upgrade. So I'm going to snag Wentz here, be able to call my quarterback room good. I'll be happy with 3 quarterbacks. Definitely don't need them all, but I'll feel a heck of a lot better. I'll feel a heck of a lot better with having those 3 in case Justin Fields isn't starting. That's mostly the reason for that move, is just in case he does not start right away. I'm gonna take Wentz-a-roo. I'm just gonna go ahead and hammer out wide receivers I like, and maybe touch on a few of them here. I want some Terrace Marshall shares. I think he might surprise people. I know I've been somebody who's been rather low on Terrace Marshall in the past. Reason being is just I like his film as a prospect, all that. Rookie wide receivers lately, though, they either are the big breakout right away. They're golden. They're the best player out there. See Robert Tonyan in the 15th round. That's absurd. They either break out right away. They're awesome. They're great. Everything is fine and dandy. Or they just never seem to really get going. And I know that there are players that break out in year 2, year 3, so on. Year 5 if you're Devontae Parker. But I just think we're coming to a point in time where wide receivers are just better when they come out of college. They're more ready for the NFL. They're able to get with agents. They're able to get, pro ready if they train with the right people. And I think that's something we need to acknowledge, is that when players just don't pan out, they might just not be, they might not be ready for the NFL. They might not be at the level they need to be to really make a difference in the NFL. They might be a good player. They could be, I'm sure they're all great people and all that, but they just might not be the level they need to be to break out in the NFL. And that's okay. I mean, I'm honestly feeling pretty dang good about this team already. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Carson Wentz, and then you got Derrick Henry, Najee, DeAndre Swift, Damian Harris, Nyheim Hines, Justin Jefferson, Godwin, Ayuk, Brian Edwards just got sniped, which is fine. I'm not married to any one of these. I do want Terrace Marshall. I would like to get him on one of my rosters. Then you got guys that I just don't like. What are you doing at this point? Really, man, Lions fan? Come on. Hashtag bars, by the way. But so we get sniped on Marshall. It is a tough road here. I could take either Jacoby Myers or Amari Rodgers here. I'm probably going to take Myers and then hope I can get Rodgers on the next swing. Either way, I'm not too upset, but I just don't get what White Collie is doing. So I'm gonna take Jacoby Myers. I think that could be a huge value. I know my buddy Nate NFL at Nate NFL on Twitter, really high on the guy. Really thinks he could be the big breakout. A player that went undrafted and then went to the Patriots, showed out. Has had a few games where he's really blown up and made a difference, but just hasn't really got that big traction step to really take that step forward. So I think it's one of my first shares of him. I'm okay with it. I don't hate it. I'll be looking to grab Amari Rodgers next. One of my personal favorite rookie wide receivers. I really think he's, as a Packers fan, I'm really excited that A, we drafted a wide receiver. B, that we drafted one that I think is pretty darn good. My favorite thing about Amari Rodgers is the difference that he brings to that offense. He's not just a tree running around out there. He's not Alan Lazard. He's not EQ. He's not Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He brings something different. He's a running back with the ball in his hands, and he can catch well. He's an absolute tank when it comes. He's built like a running back, so he should run like one. But I'm a big fan of Amari Rodgers. I'm excited to see what he can do in Green Bay. We need a new A. Rodgers for the A. Rodgers we're losing. That's sad. But so I'm looking to draft Amari Rodgers here. He is probably my favorite pick here. And then I'll probably take whichever New Orleans wide receiver falls to me with my last pick, knowing full well that it is likely Michael Thomas misses the start of the year. I'm drafting Amari Rodgers everywhere, which I'm pretty pumped up about. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what falls 12 picks away. It's a bit of a ride. Right now in these last rounds, I like to say take a shot on a guy who can be awesome for your team, especially in a 10-team league or a smaller team league. If, there's 3, 6, 10, 12 team leagues on here. With how my wide receiver room is panned out, with how my running back room is panned out, with all my quarterbacks and tight end, with how every room is panned out, I'm pretty much happy taking any shot I need to. I can draft any position. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to stick to wide receivers because I think that's where I'm weakest. After Tyler Boyd, honestly, after Godwin, there's question marks because Ayuk, I think he's going to break out this year, even in a bigger fashion than he did last year. But after Ayuk, man, I'm looking at Tyler Boyd, there's question marks. Mooney, there's question marks. Myers, question marks. Rodgers, how much playing time is he going to get as a rookie? So I'm going to take another dart throw on wide receiver. And honestly, it doesn't need to be, honestly, somebody I might look at is actually Sterling Shepard. So, and the reason I'm thinking about Sterling Shepard, although it puts a pretty big damper on week 10, which sucks, but the reason I like him a lot is just because, with Kadarius Toney being out now in camp, that's not good, man. Being out on that COVID list is not good. The biggest detriment to rookies as rookies is missing camp, whether it's an injury, especially their first camp, missing due to injuries, due to COVID now, whatever the case is, rookie wide receivers that miss time in camp, it's not great. Not a good look. Coaches don't like that. I should say they don't like it, but it's bad for their development. They're learning from the sideline as opposed to learning on the field and really taking advantage of reps they could be getting. Nothing they can do. Injuries happen. COVID obviously happens, but it is an unfortunate circumstance that when you miss that time, it's hard to get it back. So with Kadarius Toney missing all that time, Sterling Shepard is kind of peeking out to me as value in my opinion. So I've changed my mind again. I'm looking now at Van Jefferson. A little bit of it is because he's not a week 10 bye. I'll admit that. But I do think that there's actually some upside for Van Jefferson. He was seeing about 50-50 rep split with Josh Reynolds. So the fact of the matter is he should be the wide receiver 3 in wide receiver 3 sets. Allegedly, since Cam Akers is out there going to run more wide receiver 3 sets, solely for the matter of, what is this guy doing? 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 10 wide receivers, 3 tight ends? You're going to have a tough time at RB, my friend, but that's okay. Hey, to each their own. That is the name of the draft is, do your own thing, have fun. Whatever it is, if you think you're going to win, this is a competitive venture. So we are going to make our last pick, and it is going to be Van Jefferson. The guy drafted 2 running backs the whole way. Interesting move. So we're drafting Van Jefferson, somebody who I really liked as a rookie, somebody who I thought had crazy separation, speed, quickness, all that. Good catcher of the ball, and showed well and when he had opportunities in his first season. So as you can see, that is it for the draft. Just to recap the team really quick. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Carson Wentz at quarterback. My running back room is stacked with Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, and DeAndre Swift. On top of that, I get to rock with Damian Harris, Nyheim Hines. Wide receiver room, pretty solid, but it's very deep. Justin Jefferson, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk, Tyler Boyd, Darnell Mooney, Jacoby Myers, Amari Rodgers, my boy, Van Jefferson. And for tight end, probably could have drafted another one. Probably should have drafted Robert Tonyan. That's okay. I'll take the extra wide receiver and call it a day. Mark Andrews, Noah Fant at tight end. That's it for the draft. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please leave a like. Check out these other best ball videos. I would appreciate it a lot. If you want to get on Underdog Fantasy and play some best ball drafts with me, get over there, use promo code REWIND, or use the link in the description below. That is it for me. Y'all have a good one.